Barney, you can go first this time.
Yeah, sure. So when your output variable is continuous, normality test. When your output variable is categorical in two categories, then we have a thumb rule that if one of the classes is less than 30%, then it's imbalanced. That is pretty straightforward. But when it comes to multi-categorical data, there is no defined thumb rule as such. So it goes by the general intelligence. Let me take example of 4 classes. If someone takes a loan, maybe they would repay the loan ahead of time or exactly on time, or they might delay the loan submission or pay a loan payment, or they might default. So if there are 4 categories which exist, and then say all 4 categories have approximately 20 to 25%, 25%, 25%, 25 and 25 in all the 4 categories. In this kind of scenario, it's straightforward balanced. If one of the classes is 10%, then remaining 3 are 30%, 30%, 30% each. Then very clearly, in comparison to the other categories, one category is very less. So this would be classified as imbalanced dataset. However, having said that, it might be really tricky when it comes to multi-categorical data to determine whether your data are imbalanced or not. So we would experiment, assuming that our data set are balanced, do your simple random sampling, build your models, and build another algorithm or build algorithms, assuming that your underlying data set are imbalanced. And then apply all these oversampling, undersampling kind of techniques and build your algorithms. Then you look at the accuracies of these 2 scenarios. One scenario is assuming your data are balanced. Another scenario is assuming your data are imbalanced. Look at the accuracies and then figure out which approach is giving you good accuracy. Go with that.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Barney. And I'd just like to quickly add another thing that I have. Of course, I'm supposed to be the interviewer, so I shouldn't be giving answers, but nevertheless, I got excited. So another simple policy that you can do if you have multi-class data, and if among the classes you verify or find out the class which has the least proportion. So like Barney said, 30, 30, 30, and 10. So the class which has the least proportion in the entire data, take the count of that particular class, and you can do, you can do undersampling from the remaining classes. So effectively, if I have 100 records and 30 records of one class, 30 records of one class, 30 records of one class, and 10 records of one class, for my sampling, for the purpose of, taking the data which I'll eventually partition for train and test, I will take the entire 10 records of the minority, randomly sample among the 30 another 10, randomly sample another 30 another 10, randomly sample from the other 30 10. So I now have 40 records with 25 is to 25 is to 25 is to 25% proportion. I have now done an oversampling in comparison to the class which is having very less categories. So this is one thumb rule. But again, there is a risk to this. If your data itself is very less, you only have, let us say, 500 records. You have to use the entire 500 records. So you'll have to think over again. So it is, again, as a data scientist, over a period of time, you will be able to do it. Yeah. Okay. So next, we will discuss about, so let me just move on to the other topic here. All right. So what is the difference between longitudinal and time series data? This question is to Sharath.
Thank you, Nitin. Once again, let me start with time series data set. The simple fact is the data will be in series format. When I say series, it's basically a sequential data. And the thumb rule to detect a time series is that it is a univariate data set. When I say univariate data set, we will have only one column which is of our interest. We also can call that as a variable of interest. And this data is being collected in sequence of time The granularity at which the sequence is collected is, of course, again subjective and depends on the business requirements. It could be minutes basis, hour basis, day basis, or weekly basis, so on and so forth. But as I said, it is a univariate data. The thumb rules are single column collected in sequence. Now coming to the longitudinal data, which is also called as a panel data, is basically a data which has multiple columns, but all these columns are also collected in sequence. So it's a combination of what we call as a cross-sectional data, which is generally collected in random fashion. And the combination along with that, we also have the data which collected in sequence. So we take all these randomly collected multiple variables and arrange them in sequence of time. So it's a multivariate data which is collected in sequence, is basically called as longitudinal data or panel data.
Barney, anything to add, please? With reference.
Yeah, absolutely, Nitin. I would probably rephrase the same explanation which Sharat has given, but okay, let me give an example here. Suppose you have a column called as sales. And if you have the sales data collected for each and every month, as an example, Jan, Feb, March, April, May, June, in that sequence, then it is called as time series data. We're talking about a single column. Say you collected the sales data for Jan 22, Feb 22, March 22, April 22, May 22, so on and so forth. It's called as time series data. What is longitudinal data? If I collect the same sales for Hyderabad region, sales for Bengaluru region, sales for Chennai, and then if I collect the sales for all these three locations for Jan 22, Feb 22, March 22, April 22, etc., then this would be called as longitudinal data or panel data. In panel data or longitudinal data, you will have multiple columns which are collected based on time series in that sequence. Whereas in time series, you will have a single column which is also collected based on time series fashion. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So just one small addition I'll also like to make. The examples now, every question, every interview that you attend, you should have a good understanding of who your company is, who the interviewer is. And therefore, if you have to give examples, if possible, try to give examples related to their company. Now, if you're attending interview for a pharmaceutical company, then pharmaceutical trials or something like that, you can probably use examples. This impresses them further than generic examples, because if the question is not related to your project. Okay, so that is one thing. Thank you so much, both of you, for the responses. So let me now move on to Sharat. Okay, now we're discussing about data pre-processing, and we discussed about balance and balance. But there are many names that data pre-processing is given. Many names that data pre-processing is given. So can you please spell out some of those names?
Oh yeah, gladly. Yeah, before that, I would just want to summarize the process. So when we talk about data pre-processing, the idea is to ensure that the data is in an appropriate format for us to move to the next phase, which is model development. And model development is basically a concept which is kind of bringing up mathematical concepts onto the programming concepts. And of course, business logic. So your data has to be in a structured format, which your computer can understand, on which your programs can be written. And then it would become very easy for us to take the mathematical concepts and apply them on this particular data. So in short, data pre-processing is a step where we do a lot of manipulation, adjustments to the data in generic terminology. And from a statistical world or data analytics or data science world, the terminologies goes as data cleaning We call it as data pre-processing or data preparation. We call it as data munging. We call it as data wrangling or data organizing. We can also call it as scaling. We can also call it as data transformations, so on and so forth.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. I really doubt if Barney has anything to, add to that. He has used all the things. So I'll leave it at that.
Absolutely. It's like Nitin, if I may intervene, I can call you as Nitin, or I can call you Mishra ji, or I can call you Nitin Mishra, all mean the same. Right? That is exactly what Sharat was saying.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much, Sharat. All right. So we have time for one more question. So again, I'll give it to Sharat first, and then I'd request Barney to give a follow up on that. So what is the sequence that one would follow for data pre-processing? Any project, a generic project that we have, the step one, step two, I request an answer for that.
Okay, as such, Mr. Nitin, there is no standard process or standard flow that we have to follow. It purely is a subjective call that one should take based on the characteristics of the data that we are dealing with or data that we are able to ingest into Python. But if you have to very generic manner in its ideal conditions, if I have to put the order, then probably I'll start with trying to understand whether Python has, or that would be my go-to programming language for analyzing the data. So whether that particular programming language has correctly interpreted the data that we are trying to load is the first thing that I would like to look at. And this is basically called as typecasting. Because Python has this capability where it can automatically interpret the data types. So I just wanted to cross-check whether this interpretation is in line with the understanding of the data from business perspective. Post that, I would also like to check if there are any duplicates. There are a lot of cases where the data can be duplicated. We don't want to work on duplicate data. Post that, I would also want to perform univariate analysis where we will try and look at the outlier analysis. Then we also look at checking the variations in the data using zero variance logic. I also want to treat missing data if there are any. And if I have to convert the data from, let's say, very large data, continuous data into discrete, then we'll do binning. It's also called as discretization. Then I also want to do encoding. There are different techniques that we will implement based on, again, the characteristics of the data. We'll try to convert non-numeric data into numeric form. This specific process is called as encoding. And we can also talk about transformations. We can talk about scaling. So on and so forth. These are probably an ideal steps that we can try and apply for cleaning our data.
Thank you, Sharat. Barney, your go.
Yeah, Nitin. So it's like buffet. Data pre-processing is like a buffet. You have a lot of items. What do you want to consume first depends on you as a person who prefers to eat something. For example, I would probably get started with sweet because I have a lot of cravings towards sweet. And not many people would do that, right? They will probably start with soup and so on and so forth. Given this, a data scientist has all these arms and ammunitions of data pre-processing. They can choose based on what they want to apply. However, having said this, there is a sequence that we can talk about, like typecasting. Then we have something called as handling the duplicates, because you don't want the duplicate data. Then you probably deal with your outliers, remove your outliers from the data. Then you perform zero variance imputation and categorization or discretization, as people famously call it, transformation, so on and so forth. But yep, there are once again no defined steps as in what should come first, what should come second, what should come third. But then based on our experience, we can say that our mind map, which is available on 360 website, has the steps which has to be followed in that sequence for majority of the projects, and it work well.
Thank you so much, Barney and Sharat. Thank you for this session today. It was, I believe, a lot more engaging because we could address a lot more questions because we changed the format. So audience, the takeaways for you is that, you need to you need to have your knowledge, you need to have threadbare knowledge. And like Barney wrapped up in the end about, the mind map, because if you can look into the mind map in great detail, you'll be able to answer just about everything. So what we've kind of discussed is very, very simple thing about balance, imbalance data, all right, and how it can be with reference to continuous and multi-categories. We've also discussed with reference to longitudinal and time series, a simple scenario there. And then, of course, the stages or the steps that one needs to do as part of data pre-processing. Use your experience of your project that you have done and how you have, and justify the sequence with how you have done it because of that reason. So, Bunny, any closing remarks?
Yep, absolutely. So, friends, at the end of 1 week, Monday to Friday, Monday, Friday, Monday to Friday, all the Monday to Friday, we'll be having these kind of interview preparation sessions. And the mind map is being created by Sharath as we talk. PDF document is being created by Nitin. Both of these are available on our website, but we'll give you the exact location of that on probably Saturday. And it'll be posted on our LinkedIn homepage. So please, there's a link which is posted of LinkedIn. Please follow our page so that you get to know about further details of this mind map, etc. And also we recommend you strongly to follow our YouTube channel, because the deployment tools would be discussed on every Saturday. Every Saturday, we are also going to talk about one deployment tool, which will be predominantly driven by Sharath and me supporting him. And Nitin will be overseeing the session. Thank you so much. And thank you, Nitin. Thank you, Sharath. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharath. Thank you, Barney.
Thank you, everyone. Happy learning.
Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and click on the bell icon. Thank you.